on. Yep. So today we are wrapping up our Rocktober Prosperity Month, and our series this month has been based on the book Busting Loose of the Money Game. So we started the journey by looking at some of the rules of the money game, these ideas that are held in the collective consciousness about money. For example, there's not enough. There's not enough for everyone. Or we must work hard for money. Or money is the root of all evil. Or you can't be spiritual and have money. So there's a number of messages and ideas that are kind of held in this collective consciousness about money, and often they kind of conflict too. So the thing is, these ideas, oops, I knocked it over, are so pervasive in our culture. She told me about this, but I'm like, thanks. These ideas are so pervasive in our culture that unless we are aware and paying attention, they can easily begin to influence our own life and our own understanding of life. But the thing is, what this does is it just allows us to become complacent and to outsource our good to something that is out of our control. Because if we think, well, that's just the way it is, there's not enough for everyone, there's just some people that are good at money, but not me. All of these things that we could buy into, these ideas, will begin to inform our life. And if we just accept that is the way it is, we won't even try to bust loose from this game. But I know that we are here, we are up to something different here in this room, yes?
Yes.
So we are here to experience the fullness of life and the pure abundance of the universe. So the first step is to unravel our own fear and doubt and lack in regards to money. And we must recognize that when we are playing by these rules and buying into this game, and these rules that aren't even really real, right? So it reminds me of a story I believe I've shared before, and it was funny. I was getting my daughter Cadence ready for bed last night, and she had a birthday party, so she was telling me about her day, and she's like, yeah, we played this game, Capture the Flag. And this is the exact thing that I was thinking about in relationship to this topic today. So the idea, right, is that you have these little chalk boxes, and if you get tagged by someone on the other team, you have to go and you stand in your little box until someone from your team can come and tag you out. Well, here's the thing. What if you are playing this game, and then all of a sudden you get tagged, you're in this box, and it starts to get dark, and your friends decide they're going to go home, game's over, bye. And you're still in this box.
Whoa.
Well, imagine if you were playing the game and so seriously and bought into the rules of the game that you just stood there because you knew that the rules of the game are you can't leave this box unless you get tagged out. And you just stand there alone in the dark and the cold. Now that seems kind of silly, doesn't it? When all you have to do is just step out. There's nothing really there blocking you. But the same thing happens when we are playing this money game, this game of life, too seriously. When we buy into these rules and these ideas and these beliefs and start to believe that they are real or they have some kind of power over us, then we will forever be stuck in our own little boxes. The only way to be free is to realize that nothing truly hinders or blocks us. Nothing limits us but our own mind. When we have simply accepted that certain beliefs of lack or limitation or fear and certain conditioning from society. So these rules about money, just like any other system or structure in our society, are only held up in place by the collective buy-in. That we all say, yes, this is true, and I'm going to play by these rules. So in order to bust free of this mindset of lack and limitation, we must first realize where we are taking these rules of the game of money a little too seriously. And I know I do it sometimes. I can start looking at those numbers, looking at the bank account, and start believing that that is the truth, as opposed to knowing the ultimate truth of who I am as one with the infinite source of all life. So once we begin to bring awareness and curiosity and wonder to our finances, we can notice when we are in this phase 1 consciousness, as the author of the book calls it, and then we can consciously choose to move into phase 2 by affirming the truth that we live in an infinite universe of pure potentiality, that there is enough for all, that it's not pie, and if I cut a piece and give it to you, now there's one less for me. No, the life of the universe of who we are is infinite, and it circulates, right? As we give, we receive, and last week we talked about this flow, right? Getting into this flow of life. So to break free from these lies and these beliefs that perhaps we have that we have believed and that have locked us into this certain system and this structure in regard to money and finances, we must remember our infinite nature. And we have talked about some practices in order to help us bust free from this mindset. So I'm curious how many of you have started to practice some of these things in your life. A couple weeks ago, we talked about the opportunities to express appreciation, right? So instead of looking at a bill or a payment, you consider it as an opportunity to express appreciation for what you have received. Or maybe you've began to shift your language around I have to I get to, right? It's a subtle thing, but feel the difference of the energy behind that? So just the other day, many of you know that we recently bought a house and moved a few weeks ago. So the other day I was sitting there and I was thinking, oh, I have to pay my mortgage. I got to set this up. I have my first mortgage payment coming up. And I wasn't like, oh, I have to. I was just kind of neutral about it. But what I realized in that moment, I thought of what I said, have to get to, and I said, hey. And I sat there and I was like, I get to pay my mortgage because I have a house now. And I began to cultivate this energy of gratitude and appreciation and just look around at this beautiful home that I'm in. And then from that place, move into this flow of circulating this energy that we call money as an opportunity of appreciation for that which I have. I'm grateful that I get to pay a mortgage now, yes? And Heather, my wife, she sure will call me out if I was like, oh, we got to pay rent. She's like, mortgage. when we first bought a house in Michigan, I was like, oh, have we paid? It's a mortgage. I'm like, okay, yes, thank you. Being clear with our words because they have power, yes? All right, so in order to bust loose of this money game and to live in the flow of abundance and circulation of the very source energy of life, it takes awareness, it takes practice, but it also takes something else, which is today's topic, a leap of faith. So Reverend Sonny, what exactly is a leap of faith?
Well, first of all, let me give you the opportunity to feel even more gratitude. I could give you my mortgage payment as well. Yes?
Only if it comes with the house, too.
Well, of course
You're like,
does.
sure.
Yeah.
On paper, you can call it yours.
Exactly. So a leap of faith, my goodness, how many times have we heard that phrase, a leap of faith? Well, you know what? In its most commonly used meaning, it's the act of believing in or accepting something intangible or unprovable or without empirical evidence. Mm-hmm. So, wow, it is, it's something you can't prove. Right? There's no evidence, right? And it's the act of believing. And so, but how does faith work in our lives, right? Because, I've been tied into the old thoughts of faith. You have to have enough faith. You can't lie. You can't do all these things, because you're being watched, whether it's Santa Claus or God, whatever.
And now there's elf on a shelf.
Now there's elf on a shelf.
So many
right?
things.
Shoo,
Gotta look out for.
Look it out. Look out. So how does faith work in our lives, especially when it comes to prosperity? Last week I said money seems to be the last place that we discover God, even though it says on our money, "In God we trust." So it's kind of interesting, isn't it? So often we talk of faith in relationship to something that God will provide. And here's the deal. Faith doesn't influence God. Faith does not influence God out there to send riches to fill our needs down here. Faith is how we shape and form our ideas of what prosperity and abundance is in relationship to God, to spirit. Remember, God is just a word. Fill it in. Whatever it is for you, love, Buddha, whatever, Jesus, the universe, spirit. Anyway, it's what we feel that God feels about the universe, and we have to work on that, and about prosperity, right? We've got to work on that. So in relationship to God or to spirit or to the universe, and what that really means in our lives. In other words, there's a famous businessman, millionaire, his name is Mike Todd. He was even more famous for being married to Elizabeth Taylor. But he said, "Many times I have been broke, but I have never been poor." And that's because the universe functions in perfect balance. It is never depleted. But in everyday life, we can feel depleted, not only in our finances, but in time. How many times do we say, "I don't have enough time"? Or how about in energy? Right? "I'm so tired." Right? And so on and so on. So remember, those are affirmations that we're doing every day of our lives. When we're affirming we don't have enough time, guess what? The universe will not give us enough time.
Say yes.
If we have plenty of time, I have more than I need, I have enough time to do all the things I want to do and more, then the universe, because it works in perfect balance and it always says yes, is going to give you more than you need. So when we hear the voice in our heads that speak of fear and lack, we may begin to feel alone or empty, and everything becomes a struggle, and we start buying into that. However, when we're able to turn to our faith and trust and go beyond appearances, even though through the struggle, we will begin to gain hope. Now, we have to cultivate our faith first. We have to explore what we really believe about prosperity, about money in our lives, what we believe about the availability of the universal and God as the source of all, as well as the substance of all. Therefore, when I'm talking about the universe, I'm talking about its literal meaning, which is the basic unity of all life. Like God, the word universe is referring to the whole of things, the allness, which is present in, through, and as everything. So there's no place in the universe where spirit is any more present or less present than right here, right now, as you, as me, in our lives, and right where we are in our lives and in our experiences. Spirit does not come and go. Spirit is always present in its fullness and does not play favorites. The word substance, from the Latin substare, which means stand under. Stand under. If we break all of this down, the whole of the divine as substance and source is present in its entirety at every point in space and at the same time for everyone. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to y'all? Some people do a little bit. Some people are saying, You want me to say it again? Okay. If we break this all down, the whole of the divine as substance and source is present in its entirety at every point in space at the same time for everyone. Let me give you another example. Let's look at the ocean. The ocean has drops, right? So we are all part in, through, and as this great ocean. So this ocean is fully present in its substance and its entirety all the time. And we are part of it because we are a drop in the ocean. And without all of us, we wouldn't be able to recognize the greater substance, the greater source. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, I'm on a roll now. I'm going to dive in.
Dive in. Swim.
So let me give you another example because this is really good. When you breathe all the air you need, you can never deprive anyone else of the air each person needs to breathe. So as I'm breathing right now, I am not taking your breath away. Well, I might be.
Take my breath away.
All right, don't sing.
He's going to turn off my mic.
So right,
I love that, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
I'm breathing, but I'm not taking your breath.
Yeah. There's enough.
There's enough, and there's always enough, and there's plenty to spare. And you know why there's plenty to spare?
Why?
Because they're breathing too. Try holding your breath and see what happens.
No thanks.
Right? So we have to breathe. We have to give our breath away, and we have to take it in, which is the reciprocal nature of the universe.
Yes.
Always expanding and contracting, always in perfect balance. Always. The only limitation or lack that we feel is in our consciousness. Because there's no place of limitation in the universe. And here's the deal. You are an expression of the infinite creative flow, and the universe, hear me when I say, the universe owes you a living simply by the air it provides. Right? The world, on the other hand, owes you nothing. But you owe the world a life. Because you're here. And so you get to stand in the power and the presence of the knowingness that you're here to live the very best life you can. And that you are able to be. And so part of all of that, of living the best life that you can, is to look at all those hidden beliefs, whether it's about money or anything else in your life, relationships. You know, your responsibility as a human being is to live in the truth of who you are and let your light be a beacon of truth so that others may let their light shine. Because the universe is on your side and always has been on your side and will continue to provide the air for you to breathe. Life is forever on the side of abundance, on the side of becoming, on the side of success. We love a success story, don't we? Or a hero's journey, right? And when we allow ourselves to be centered in the universal flow, this is when we become synchronized with the divine good. And so sometimes we call this the universal flow. Sometimes we call this universal flow miracles. And sometimes we know it as simply a natural function of the divine. So whatever we call it or know it as, it is the evidence of substance. So there's this old story that's been around for years, and it's about John, a businessman who was desperate for success. So he went to church one day and prayed devoutly, God, if you'll only help me somehow, I will give you 10% of everything I make, right? Nothing happened. The next Sunday, John prayed, I'll give you 25% if you help me. Still nothing. The next Sunday, God, I will make you my 50-50 partner if you help me out a little. Just then his wife runs into the church and grabs him and says, guess what? We just won $5 million in the lottery. John turned to the heavens, because that's where God lives, right? Turned to the heavens and said, oh, don't worry about it, God. It's okay. I got the money someplace else. Right? Okay. All right. Okay, so if we rely on something outside of ourselves to fill our pockets or our lives, we're at the mercy of outside influences. But if we can practice and build our consciousness on the evidence of substance as the universal flow, we will never be poor, because the universe can never supply lack. The universe can never supply lack. This is a state of mind. Eric Butterworth, Dr. Butterworth, refers to this as onlyness. I only earn. I am only worth. I only have. I only need. I only want. In other words, regardless of what you have, your thoughts are centered in what you do not have. With the subconscious fear, of course, that you do not have enough. And this is subtle stuff, folks. It really is. And to let go of the onlyness means we have to raise our consciousness to the level of the all-sufficiency, and guess what? Expand our faith. The truth is, all too often, we have no idea whether we are onto a good thing in our lives, whether it's working in our lives, or whether a particular opportunity or project will yield fruit, or whether it will not. Nonetheless, when we raise our consciousness and practice our faith that there is a higher power involved, we are led to the direction of our good.
Yes.
The universe can never provide lack.
Yes. So the opportunity this week is for us to practice our faith through recognizing the good, the abundance, the bounty that surrounds us. It's such a beautiful time of year to turn to nature of that great example. So we get to lean into the awareness and pay attention to our thoughts when they start to say, oh, there's not enough, I'm not enough. Any of these thoughts and feelings of scarcity, of fear, of doubt, as they begin to creep in, and they might, because we're human, right? That's how we're wired. But we also are spiritual beings that can transcend those ideas through raising our vibration and our consciousness and reminding ourselves of the truth. So this is a practice every day, all day. Be mindful, notice, pay attention, and then choose a new thought, that of truth. So we get to stand in the knowingness that God is the source and substance of all supply. And that shifts our energy and turning to appreciation and gratitude. Noticing the flow of good in and around us will begin to transform ourselves so that we can see things from a new perspective. So are you willing to expand to expand your consciousness, to expand your container for good, and stretch in your own giving and generosity practice in order to prove God, spirit, universe, life is the source and substance of your supply, and strengthen your faith today. Are you in? All right.
Some people are.
Let's try that again. Are you in? All right.
Shall we pray?
Let's pray. Let's pray for those that said yes.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And those that didn't say anything.
That's true, yeah.
Okay.
And those that said yes.
Yeah. Oh, I have a great idea. Let's
Okay.
pray for everybody.
Let's do it. Okay. All in. All in.
All in. Would you like to start?
You get it started. I'm going to grab some water.
You're going to grab some
Yeah.
water. That
I
high
gotta-
voice
I got be in the flow.
I'm dropping into that place, that space where I know that only the divine exists. I know that this that I speak of, that I call God this morning, is the source and substance of all supply. I know this power and presence as that which creates out of itself, never diminished or destroyed by its creation. How amazing and beautiful that out of its creation it has created this community and each and every individual with us today and those who could not be here. How amazing that this power and presence created so many things, from the invisible to the visible, from prosperity and joy, creating out of love, creating out of oneness, creating out of grace and truth and all of these things, because that is the truth of the one power and presence. And I know that as I lie upon the altar of truth, I affirm and know that this not only is the truth of the one source, it is the truth of me, and it is the truth of all beings, all creatures, great and small. And so it is from that truth that I speak this word for this community, knowing that there is no lack or limitation in spirit in the universe. Therefore, I know that right here and right now, all is flowing as the very life that God is, to expand and enrich each and every individual right here, right now. Those who said yes, those who didn't know, they said yes, and those who are still saying yes. And for anyone who may be experiencing doubt or lack or limitation, I know that there's a greater truth to be known, and that right here and right now, everything is in perfect order, and that the flow that they are perhaps lacking in consciousness is opening up right now, without hesitation, without delay, and expanding into the greater yet to be, into that greater knowingness that indeed the divine is right where we are, flowing in, through, and as the very life that God is. How beautiful and amazing that this truth can stand through the power and presence of the world, knowing that this community, in, through, and as the very life that God is expanding, opening up, receiving not only all the pledges that have already been offered, but those that are still coming through the doors. How grateful I am to know this truth and to speak this word for this community as I pass my prayer to Reverend Rainbow.
Yes, and I take a deep breath, accepting all that has been spoken as I add my word to this field of oneness, to this field of infinite potentiality, of pure potentiality, infinite possibility, knowing that this source of life is sourcing me now in all areas, in all aspects of my life. Prosperity, abundance, wholeness is experienced through my finances, my relationships, my creativity, in all the ways that we choose to share. So I know and I speak this word in the first person for all of us, for there is really one life expressing here, now, and always its infinite nature as us. So with great gratitude, I accept this word with great gratitude for the fulfillment of this. I release this into the action of the law that always says, yes, 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 my beloved, it is done. It is so. And so it is.
So it is.
Amen.